This tier list video only gets recommended to people that are super hot. So if this appeared on your recommended page, like, quick fist bump to you. I've got 5 tiers here today. I'm going to kind of explain what each of them mean as we get going, but yeah, let's just get right into it. So Assassin's Cowl, 6th Coyote. So Assassin's Cowl, Spirit of the Assassin more specifically, maintains the invisibility portion of the Assassin's Cowl exotic, but it loses the healing aspect of it. That's not that big of a deal when it comes to Hunter exotic class items, Hunter Prismatic, because you're typically always going Combination Blow, and Combination Blow does heal you. It's not quite as much healing as Assassin's Cowl gave, but it's decent. The problem with Assassin's Cowl and Prismatic Hunter is that you're pretty much always running Stylish Executioner. It is like, there's not that many great aspects on Prismatic Hunter. You've got like Winter Shroud, Stylish Executioner, and then like you can maybe make the argument towards Gunpowder Gamble. But Threaded Spectre, it just doesn't do a strand debuff on the Threadlings. It does no Unravel, and Ascension is just not that good. So you're pretty much always running Stylish Executioner. You don't really need invisibility from an exotic, so a lot of the Assassin's Cowl ones are very middling. So none of them are really going to go in like the you win or the very good tier. With our first one, Assassin Coyote, double dodge is like you're pretty much always going to run a Combination Blow build. You can make the argument that like you can go like Threaded Spike and have a double Gambler's Dodge, and you have like ranged invisibility when you get the melee final blows with the Thread Spike. It's still in the for fun category. For fun means this is not a good build, but like, it's goofy. You don't always have to be min-maxing in Destiny. You can do some goofy stuff sometimes. That's okay. I don't ever think that you should delete any of your exotic class items. The only ones you should delete are dupes, which by the way, if you want to track which ones you already have, one of my moderators in my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Mactics, by the way, we film all these live, made a dupe tracker spreadsheet. I'll link this in the description so you can keep track of like which ones you already have for vault management. But yeah, for exotic class items, you should always just keep a unique copy, even if it's not a good roll, right? Even if it's in the for fun category. Assassin's Cowl, Surturacne is also going to go in the for fun category. Surturacne's changes a little bit. It is, instead of Grapple Grenade giving you Woven Mail, it's just on any grenade ability usage, but it's like there's not really any synergy with Assassin's Cowl there, so it just doesn't make sense. Cowl Gerfalcons also going to go in the for fun category. Gerfalcons is brutal because like we know what Gerfalcons does when you come out of invisibility, you get volatile rounds. This only works with void weapons, and in fact, this is like the Spirit of Gerfalcon is such a mid thing. One of my friends was saying this to me the other day. It's so mid that they put Gerfalcon, or at least what Gerfalcon gives, which is volatile rounds, they put it on a fragment. So if you look at the Bravery fragment, grenade kills grant volatile rounds of void weapons. They literally put what Gerfalcons gives you, basically. I mean, it's a different acquisition method, obviously. But like volatile rounds are just not that good in Destiny. Like they're okay, but it's like for an exotic class item, they're not that good. So anything with Gerfalcons is pretty rough, right? Assassin's Cowl Star Eater is going to go in that one horse shrine. I like this tier. This is what I'm talking about, by the way, where half of the horse is just like pristine and absolutely beautiful, and the other half looks like a 2-year-old druid. So this tier, of course, means one of the perks is insane, and the other perk is absolute garbage, right? Star Eater, absurd. You don't get the aspect of Star Eater with the Spirit, where you get bonus super energy on orb pickup, but you do get super increased damage, up to 70% increased damage. On Hunter, this isn't as incredible because you have things like Tether, you have things like Golden Gun Marksman, which is only really good if you're pairing with Celestial Nighthawk, and if you have Celestial Nighthawk, obviously you don't have Star Eater. So this is really only reserved for like Silence and Squall, which is like a decent super, but when you put it next to like stuff like Nova Bomb Cataclysm, which just got recently buffed, it's not as great, right? So Star Eater's not absurd, right? It's not enough to take it up a tier, but it's decent enough. Also going in that one horse shrine, to the surprise of no one, Liars and Syntheseps are absurd for Prismatic Hunter. They pair very nicely with Combination Blow. Liar is also obviously a 200% damage increase on every other melee. One issue with Syntheseps is that when it's paired with Combination Blow, instead of getting the 165% increased melee damage, you only get 30%. This sounds a lot worse than it actually is, because you're still going to get the 165% to get your first stack of Combination Blow, like before you have any stacks, which makes getting like your stacking like started, it makes it way easier, especially in higher end content, right? Additionally, if you guys have been watching my build videos, you probably know that Combination Blow, the buff that it grants, does not buff grapple melee, like when you grapple grenade and then you melee afterwards. However, Syntheseps does buff grapple melee. So like when you have Syntheseps, yes, you lose a little bit, or you don't lose, but you don't get as much of a damage buff as you would if you had Liar's Handshake, but you buff the AoE of your grapple melee, which Liar's Handshake cannot do. So it does have that merit. Assassin's Verity. Verity's just not that great. on Hunter, with the exception of if you are running Gunpowder Gamble, because Verity does buff Gunpowder Gamble. And the thing is, if you're running Gunpowder Gamble, then you maybe aren't running Stylish Executioner, which gives more merits to Assassin's Cal. The thing is, though, that like it's just you're kind of making life hard on yourself for no reason. If you're like, oh well, I really, you know, there's better options if you do have Verities. You know, you can go Verities, you can have a better option here. This is a very like for fun combo, right? And then Assassin's Wormhusk, pretty much everything with Wormhusk, Ophidian, Dragon Shadow is pretty much going to usually go in the for fun column, just because these are more PvP oriented exotics. This, just to make this explicitly clear, this is a PvE tier list, so get that out of the way real quick. Moving on to Caliban's Hand. Literally every single one of these rolls at minimum goes in the one horse drawing column, because literally just because of Caliban's. It's absurd. It's so absurd as well because if you look at Caliban, powered melee kills trigger an ignition. What's really cool about this, the way Prismatic Hunter works, Arc Hunter, Prismatic Hunter with Combination Blow. If you have the Combination Blow buff, like I'm not just saying like the melee ability is fully charged, which is not typically a problem because you're going melee dodge, melee dodge, melee dodge. It is always fully charged. If you have like Combination Blow X3, you don't necessarily have to dodge in between every kill to always proc Calibans, because if you have the Combination Blow, the buff, that makes every single one of your melee hits a powered melee, which means you can end up in a situation where you have like Combination Blow ×3 for 20 seconds. Instead of dodging in between every enemy, you can just like punch every enemy one after the other and they'll all explode with Calibans. And the only time you need to dodge to get your melee ability back is when you want to get the Combination Blow melee to refresh the stack timer on Combination Blow back up to 20 seconds. But it's got insane synergy with Combination Blow because you can just like rip off 20 melees in a row without dodging in between any of them, as long as you have the Combination Blow buff on your sidebar, and every single one of them will ignite. Caliban's Surturachnes is going to be my first one that goes in not trolling. This is where we kind of enter the decent tier, right? Not trolling is the tier where I'm like, listen, you're not like reinventing the wheel or anything. You're not doing any, you don't have a build that's gonna like carry you. But like you're not running it down either at the same time. Like you're not being a goofball. Surturachnes, so on Prismatic Hunter, you're typically always going to go Grapple Grenade, or you're going to go Dustfield Grenade, usually. It's really easy to get your grenade back on Prismatic Hunter because of how much you're doing melee dodge, you know, rinse and repeat. Specifically because you're typically going to be running triple heavy-handed, so you're going to be generating a ton of orbs. You can then run like Absolution or Invigoration to get grenade energy back when you pick up those orbs. Or you could run like Bomber or a Distribution on your class item to get some energy back every time you dodge. So like you're generating a ridiculous amount of energy. So you have a really high grenade uptime when you're running Prismatic Hunter, just because of like the armor mod setups that you'll typically go with. And so this can be really nice because like having Woven Mail while you're running like a melee based build just makes you infinitely safer. The first you win tier, to the surprise of absolutely no one, Caliban's Liars. Do I even need to talk about like this? It's so obvious. Like this is absurd. If you have this role, you want it life. This role's got tier. While I'm talking about that one, let's throw Caliban Syntho up there. Listen, again, I know people are going to say, oh, but Mac, you know, Combination Blow, it's only 30% when you're wearing Syntho. It's not as good. Listen, like, it's still very good. You get the buff on every single melee as opposed to every other melee with Liar's Handshake. It makes it way easier to get your initial stack, and it buffs grapple melee, which like I can't tell you enough like why, like I can't emphasize how good grapple melee with Syntho buff is. Like it does so much damage. I wouldn't say it's better than Caliban Liar, but it's like it's extremely strong. Caliban Gerfalcon is going to go in that one horse drawing once again. This is the Caliban side of the exotic. This is the Gerfalcon side of the exotic. I know so many people love Gerfalcon's Halberg. The unfortunate reality of the situation is that with Prismatic Hunter, it's so easy to get volatile rounds if you really wanted them, but like you don't really want to invest in them anyway because it forces you to use void weapons, and volatile rounds just aren't that good. Like they're good in like a strike where everything falls over, everything's made of tissue paper, but like, you know, you go into any piece of endgame content, it's like kind of whatever. In the very good category, we're gonna go Caliban Star Eater. Now the only reason this doesn't go in the you win category is just because, like we said before, like Caliban's obviously absurd and Star Eater is very, very, very good, but Star Eater just doesn't synergize with a lot of the Hunter supers that you have available in Prismatic, right? Because like we said before, Storm's Edge, it's PvP super. Golden Gun Marksman, this is only like top tier if you can run Nighthawk, and like we said, if you're running Nighthawk, then you're obviously not running a exotic class item. Silence and Squall, this is like your best option to pair with it, which is like, it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's very good, as it's going in the very good category. It doesn't do anything with Shadow Shot Deadfall, and like, you're not going to run Silk Strike, right? If you're trying to optimize. So it could go in U-Win if we had like a better Hunter Super option. If we had Blade Barrage or Gathering Storm, for example, as options on Prismatic Hunter, that would automatically take it in the U-Win category, just because you have like super options that really synergize well with Star Eaters. Also join it in very good. I'm gonna put Caliban Verity in very good. It's bordering on not trolling, because the thing is, if you want to run Caliban, you're probably doing a melee based build, which means you really want to have where is it? You really want to have Stylish Executioner and Winter Shroud for the synergies. You can constantly go invisible on the melee kills, right? To make genuinely good use of Verities on Prismatic Hunter, you really do need Gunpowder Gamble, because the thing is, Prismatic Hunter just doesn't have particularly fantastic grenades, right? Like Grapple Grenade, it doesn't do any damage. The Grapple Melee does damage, but Verity isn't going to buff that, right? Because it's not the grenade, right? Dustfield Grenade literally doesn't do damage. Swarm Grenade, meh. Arc Bolt Grenade, meh. Magnetic Grenade, decent. It's like, you don't have like Pulse Grenade anywhere. You don't have Vortex Grenade. You don't have Fusion Grenade. You don't have anything like that. I thought Verity did buff Grapple. If it does buff Grapple, then sweet. I don't think it would buff the Grapple Melee. I would have to test that. Don't take my word for that. I still wouldn't put it in the U-Win tier. It would remain in the very good tier. But like, okay, let's say it does buff. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of people telling me it does buff Grapple. Even if it does buff Grapple, I don't put it in the U-Win tier. And the reason is, if you're running Caliban, you really are like doing a melee focused angle, which means you want Stylish Executioner and you want Winter Shroud. So you have to give one of these up to pick up Gunpowder Gamble, which is the main reason that you would like want to run Verity. Like that's the main synergy. So you're forced to like either make your loop a little worse. You really want Stylish Executioner, not necessarily just because of the invisibility, but you really want it because the melee attacks deal 200% increased damage when you strike from invisibility. So it's like that damage buff is insane. So you kind of drop Winter Shroud, I guess, but it's like then your ability to debuff targets and go invisible Stylish Executioner is just weakened significantly. There's still a lot of good stuff there. And, you like enhancing your Gunpowder Gamble is huge, but it's not quite in the UN category. It's not like perfect synergy in the way that these ones are, right? Caliban Wormhusk, that one Horse Drawing, no surprise of anyone. Dragon Shadow here. I know right out the gate, a lot of people are gonna like say, hey, Mac, Dragon Shadow is actually good because you can reload all your weapons. That has applications in like DPS phases and things of that nature. I don't completely disagree. Like, say, you like Dragon Shadow Liars, for example. I would put this in like not trolling, because it's like you are going to use Gambler's Dodge so that you can keep your melee loops, because if you have Liars, you're going to be doing a melee loop, right? But the thing is, in most situations, you can just use something that's not Dragon Shadow, and if you really, really, really want that weapon reload, one, you probably only really care about the weapon reload on your heavy weapon if it's mid DPS phase, and two, you can just use Marksman Dodge if you really care about it that much. Furthermore, you might say, okay, well, Mac, I don't want to use Marksman Dodge because I want to use Gamblers because I'm using Liars. Just switch the dodge before you go into DPS phase. At high mobility, which most hunters are running high mobility, dodge it's like a 16-second cooldown or something like that. Switch it 20 seconds before DPS phase, and then boom, you're good. You get what Dragon Shadow would have done for you, specifically for your heavy weapon, which is the only one you're going to care about. I'll still put Dragon Shadow and Syntho, and not trolling. Just it's like an ease of use thing. But a lot of the Dragon Shadow rolls are not just going to be particularly good, right? Along with Sword Arachnes is going to go in for fun. Oh, Dragon Shadow, you dodge and you reload your weapons, and then 6 Coyote, you get a double dodge. It's insane. It's really not that insane. Dodge is low enough cooldown that like having a double dodge, it's kind of whatever. You know what I mean? So just like a lot of the Dragon Shadow rolls are not particularly good. I'll put the one with Star Eaters in that one Horse Drawing, because you can call this like it's the DPS phase. You got the Star Eaters for the Silence and Squall super damage. You got a double Ascension though. Ascension is garbage though. It's terrible. It's a terrible aspect. Verity, Dragon Shadow. You could probably put it in that one Horse Drawing just for Verity if you want to justify that you can do Gunpowder Gamble with it. Yeah, it's just the Dragon Shadow ones. It's just not particularly good for PvE. The Foe Tracer rolls. So if we look at Foe Tracer, upon dealing ability damage to an elite, mini-boss, champion, boss, or guardian, grants X4 ability element matching weapon surge for 11 seconds. So here's the thing with doing this for Hunter. This is actually kind of nice for DPS phase applications if you have a strand weapon or if you have a stasis weapon, right? The only way you're gonna, you can justify it for like if you have an arc weapon, you're like, oh, I'm constantly combination blowing everything. And then I have the X4 arc weapon surge, like maybe, sure. But the thing is, for like a boss DPS phase, you need ranged abilities to proc this, because you're not going to like sprint up to a, like most bosses, right? There's some bosses obviously where you could, but in most circumstances, you're not going to sprint up to a boss, melee it with combination blow, and then run all the way back and start ripping damage, right? So a lot of like most things that make sense are like a strand weapon. So like this can work decent with Cataphract, in my opinion. If you do like you do threaded spike, chuck it at the boss. If you have a stasis weapon, you can chuck a dust field grenade at the boss. A lot of the other options here, you're like, oh, well, just run knife trick. It's like, well, knife trick's just not that great compared to threaded spike. Threaded spike severs enemies. It's not that great compared to combination blow for obvious reasons. Snare bomb without traverse ambush is kind of meh. Withering blade is kind of meh. You're kind of like going down this rabbit hole of like, okay, I'm going to use a significantly inferior ranged ability just so I can get X4 weapon surge on a weapon for DPS phase, when you could just run triple weapon surge on your boots. Yeah, you don't get 25% damage buff, but you do get a 17% damage buff just from picking up an orb of power. And then you don't have to sacrifice any of your build, and you don't have to sacrifice an exotic perk to be able to proc these things. Obviously, your super is going to count for this. So like if you're not running Nighthawk, which obviously, like I've said, we're not running Nighthawk, we're running exotic class items. You could maybe, like if you do a stasis weapon, like I said, Silence and Squall works, but Dustfield Grenade also works. Maybe you could do a void weapon. If you want to run Shadow Shot, you can run like Edge Transit, which Edge Transit is very good, especially this season with Expanding Abyss. It's actually pretty absurd. So like there's angles here, right? There's things that you can do. It's just you're jumping through a lot of extra hoops, and you're sacrificing a lot of other components of your build just to get pretty much the same thing that you could get by eating 2 orbs of power for 20 seconds worth of 17% weapon damage buff on your boots. I'm gonna say with 6 Coyote, it's for fun. I don't think Foe Tracer in and of itself is like this, right? I wouldn't say it's this, but it's not the good part of the horse. So it does need a little help from something else, right? So a lot of the Foe Tracer ones are going to go in for fun. I'll say, like, with Liars and Synthos, you could argue it for not trolling. You could argue it for that one horse drawing. I'll just say it's not trolling, but in like very niche situations, okay? It's like, it's not trolling in certain situations. In other situations, it's that one horse drawing. But like a lot of the rolls are just, they're just kind of okay. I'll say with Verity, this is, if you're running a solar weapon, you can say not trolling, because it's like, oh, I throw the gunpowder gamble, that gives me X4, now my solar weapon is buffed, and the gunpowder gamble does good damage because I stacked it up through Verities. It's like, everyone watching live, not trolling or horse. Feels kind of horse drawing, to be honest. There are a lot of people that say not trolling, there's a lot of people that say horse. It looks like a little bit more voting for horse. So, Galanor. So Galanor is pretty interesting. It is my understanding, if you all watching live could assist me, it is my understanding that Galanor works okay with, not that you're not really going to use Storm's Edge in PvE anyway, so we don't really need to care about that. Pretty much doesn't work at all with Golding on Marksman, which is fine because we're not really going to use Golding on Marksman that much anyway because we're not using Nighthawk. It is crazy with Silence and Squall. Like, you pretty much are guaranteed 50% of your super back every single time, and it's pretty good with Shadow Shot Deadfall. You pretty much always get 50% of your super back when you're running Galanor with these 2 supers. Correct. Okay, that's what I thought. And these are pretty much the 2 supers you're always going to be using anyway if you're running an exotic class item. So Galanor actually has decent angles, right? And I think it's because it's basically doing what Orpheus does if you're using Tether, which is pretty cool. So it's like if you rewind a little bit and said, hey, you can get the benefits of Orpheus Rig, plus you can have the benefits of another exotic, you'd be like, okay. Along with 6 Coyote, not particularly good. Goes in the horse drawing category. Along with Arachne, a lot of super energy back. You can like spam Tethers or spam Silence and Squalls, plus you get Woven Mail whenever you chuck a grenade. That's not bad. I'm gonna say that's a not trolling category. Falcons, it's the one horse drawing. With Liars and Synthos, I'm not going to put it in the you win category, but I will definitely put them in the very good category. Like, these 2 are in such a tier of their own. I honestly don't know if I'll throw any other pairing up here in the you win category. That's how ridiculous these combos are, but they definitely go in the very good category. And like, they're up there. Like, they could fight to be up here if these 2 combos weren't like as spectacular as they are. With Wormhusk, we go the horse drawing. With Verity, I'm gonna say I'm gonna put the Verity one in very good. You got Galanor, there's angles to, there's angles for like the super spam build, and then you're not really relying, you don't like have a lot of melee exotics, so you're not locked into combination blow, Winter Shroud, Salish Executioner. You got the freedom to rock and roll with Gunpowder Gamble. A lot of like I think that can be solid. I think there's a lot of optimization that can be had there too. Galanor Star Eater, I am also going to put this in very good. It's not quite as very good as Galanor Liar, Galanor Syntho. I'm not going to put it down to not trolling, because it's not so far away from that. But this is only pretty much in a situation where, because obviously, like we said before, a Star Eater with Tether kind of makes no sense, right? Because Tether's not like actually doing damage in and of itself. It like shares the damage, but that's not buffed by Star Eater. But if you run this with Silence and Squall, you can be in a decent situation where it's like you're spamming Silence and Squalls and it's doing 70% bonus damage. Inmost Light, fun fact, I thought Inmost Light was significantly better than it actually is. That's not to say it's bad, but if we look at the Inmost Light, empowered abilities on the Heart of Inmost Light for Titan, empowered abilities equals bonus ability damage and bonus ability regeneration. However, for the Spirit of Inmost Light, you only get the regeneration half of the exotic. You do not get the buff. That's not to say it's bad though. Like I said, it's actually pretty decent in a lot of builds. Like it's not super good on Hunter as it is on the other two classes, because the main prismatic Hunter abilities that you're going to be using are Gambler's Dodge and Combination Blow, and obviously those two refresh each other. So like you don't need Inmost Light to refresh either of those, right? It's not necessary. But there are arguments to be made if you go like a grenade-based build, right? Like the one I want to call out immediately is like Inmost Verities, right? Which I honestly would put in the very good category, because if you're going Inmost Verities, then you're not locked into that Combination Blow, Stylish Executioner, Winter Shroud, right? You can go like Threaded Spike, you can go Grapple Grenade, you'll have the Gunpowder Gambles that you'll be throwing, and Grapple Grenade is a good option if in fact what my stream told me is true, that Verities does also buff the Grapple Melee aspect. Like there's a lot of really interesting angles here, if that makes sense, right? Because once again, if we look at Verities, upon scoring a grenade element matching weapons kill, which is like, if you're running Grapple Grenade, you can run the Call Sidearm, which is absurd. I think it's the most powerful weapon that they added. It's the most powerful legendary weapon that they've added this expansion. You're running the Call along with the, you got your Grapple Grenade, which unravels targets, which means you can create tangles with them. And then when you use the Seasonal Tangle mod to shoot them with the Call, they're literally nuclear bombs. They clear an entire room of enemies. They're like OG global reach Warmine cells. It's like, just shout out to people who played the game back then. If you remember global reach Warmine cells, that's what tangles do this season when you shoot them with a strand weapon and you're running the seasonal mod. So there's an angle to run Verity here, right? You can get up to 100% increased grenade damage. Upon scoring a grenade element matching weapon kill, grants a stack of death throws up to 5 stacks. So if you're running Grapple Grenade and you're getting strand weapon kills and you get 5 stacks of death throws, but then you end up with a Gunpowder Gamble, even though you have 5 stacks of death throws that you acquired with a strand weapon that match your strand grenade, that'll still buff Gunpowder Gamble, right? Even though Gunpowder Gamble's solar. Cool. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So like I said, there's angles here to like get like a Gunpowder Gamble plus Grapple Grenade, Grapple Melee spam build thing going on. Like there's a lot of cool stuff that you can get going. So like I think that's a very good tier. There's angles for that, right? A lot of the other ones though, Inmost is good enough in my opinion. Call it this. Not necessarily if you're running Combination Blow, because like obviously that refunds itself, but like it opens the door for other build opportunities and constantly having ability regeneration up, right? Inmost along with Arachnes, I'm going to put that in the not trolling category just because of frequent grenade uptime, getting the damage resistance with chucking your grenade constantly with Arachnes, always having Woven Mail up, that would be awesome. Falcons in the One Horse Shrine, I'm going to put its pairing with Liars in not trolling. I'm actually going to put its pairing with Syntheseps though in very good. And you might say, well, Mac, why does Inmost Light and Liars go in not trolling, but its pairing with Synthos goes in very good? And it's because, as we discussed previously, when you're running Synthos, your Grapple Melee gets the Synthos buff, which Grapple Melee does not get buffed by Liars. So if you have a build where it's like you're doing the combo blow loop, yeah, the only thing that Inmost is really giving you is bonus grenade regeneration, because you're always getting your melee and your class ability back from the dodge melee combo. Having your grenade up is actually really massive if you're running Grapple Grenade because of the bonus damage from Syntho. So it's like that there is a really good synergy there, good enough for me to put it in the very good tier, right? With Star Eaters, I'll put it in not trolling. The problem here is there's just not a lot of synergy between the two. It's like a very like parts and pieces type build. It brings good stuff to the table, and it's like they're both in and of themselves good perks that do good things. They just don't work together particularly well. So I wouldn't put it in very good. I'll just put it in not trolling. Alongside Wormhusk, we'll go Horse Drawing. Ophidians is another one that's similar to like the Wormhusk, Dragon Shadow area, where it's like, listen, these are primarily PvP exotics, right? You don't really need Wormhusk on Prismatic Hunter because, oh, well, Mac, but you dodge so much on Prismatic Hunter with the melee dodge combo, you always regenerate your health. But it's like, yeah, but when you land a final blow to get your dodge back, you also generate your health back intrinsically through combination blow, through the melee, right? So it's like you don't really need the healing from Wormhusk in any PvE situation. Ophidians is like a similar thing. You pull out your weapons faster, insane for PvP. Like all of these, anything with Ophidian probably goes in the S or the A tier for PvP. In PvE, it doesn't really matter that much. So a lot of them are going to go in for fun. Yeah, you know, like the Liars and Caliban's components go in the one horse drawing just because Liars and Caliban's or sorry, Liars and Syntheseps are just that good. Verities and Ophidian, I'm just gonna put in for fun because the thing is, while Verities is very good, like it's like, you know, Verities Foe Tracer is significantly better than Verities Ophidian for PvE purposes. Like there's just way better options. Same thing with its Pyramid Starters. Now, finally, we have the Renewal Grasps pairings. Now, Renewal Grasps basically got its full effect over from like actual main exotic, right? If we come over here, Spirit of Renewal, you get Frost Armor, which is, it's new. It's like a mathematical way of like giving you damage resistance, which is what original Renewal used to do. And then enemies deal reduced damage. So it's like, it's pretty much the full, the only thing it doesn't do, I believe, Spirit of Renewal, is it doesn't make the ice crystal in the middle, but like that doesn't really matter. Because the only reason you wanted that is because when you ran Renewal on Stasis, you had Whisper of Chains. I think it's either Chains or Shards. I suppose I have the Destiny Data Compendium up, so I can just look it up. I think it's Shards, right? Yeah, destroying a Stasis crystal grants 500% additional base grenade regeneration rate. That's the only reason you cared about it on Stasis. We don't have Shards, though, on Prismatic, so you don't really care about Spirit of Renewal losing that effect compared to the actual Renewal Grasps exotic, right? It's pretty much got its full effects, at least all the effects we care about, right? And when you synergize this with some of the melee builds like Syntheseps and Liars, it's really good because you can run, you're always having your grenade up, like we said, you know, you're constantly dodging, you can do armor mods that give you grenade energy back, you're making a ton of orbs with heavy-handed, you run stuff like Invigoration, Absolution. On your class item, you can run stuff like Bomber and Distribution, always get your grenade, like, you can have a ton of grenade energy refund as you're cycling. And being able to just, like, plant a grenade instantly to give yourself Frost Armor and get a bunch of damage resistance is amazing for a melee-based build because you're typically going to be in dangerous situations. Sure, you have stuff like Stylish Executioner that'll make you invisible a lot. It's just, like having it like in endgame content, this can be really, really nice. We'll put its pairing with Star Eaters. I'll say that's not trolling, just because, like, you know, you can pair it with Silent Squall or something like that. It's not great though. It's bordering on that one horse drawing. What will go in that one horse drawing is Falcons. It's pairing with Wormhusk. Like, I think Renewal is a good enough thing to call it this because, like, it really is that good. Renewal, in my opinion, like Frost Armor is pretty crazy, but yeah, obviously Falcons, Wormhusk, we already kind of discussed. Meh. Along with Verity, it's kind of weird because Verity obviously does not buff your Duskfield grenade damage. Well, it does, but Duskfield grenade doesn't do damage, so it buffing Duskfield grenade damage doesn't matter. And there's kind of like an anti-synergy here, right? When you run Renewals with Verity, because it's like, if you're running it with Verity, obviously the only justification that you could do is that you're also running Gunpowder Gamble. But the thing is, if you have your Verities stacked up, but your Gunpowder Gamble is not available yet, you're like discouraged from throwing your Duskfield grenade, because then if you throw your Duskfield grenade, it's going to eat your Verities stacks, and then you won't have them when you do eventually get to your Gunpowder Gamble. So it's like it just, like, you kind of screw yourself. Like, I almost want to make a tier below for fun where it's like you're kinda like you're making your, because like you create this like infuriating dilemma mid gameplay where you're like, I need to throw my grenade because there's enemies and they're shooting at me and I need to get myself Frost Armor and I want to freeze them, but like, also I have 4 stacks of Death Throws, I'm 5 out of 6 stacks on getting Gunpowder Gamble. Like, it's like you're gonna tear yourself apart using this. Yeah, this is gonna go into this will make you insane tier, I suppose. Renewals with Coyote, it's like, it's horse drawing tier, but it's like, honestly, you could probably justify putting its pairing with your Falcon, Wormhusk, and 6th Coyote in the for fun tier. Honestly, I'm gonna put him there. Renewals is good. It's good enough to call it this, but it's like Wormhusk or Falcon, it's like, it's just not good. Verity consumes stacks, I'm pretty sure. Does it not? Wait, do I just not understand how Verity's works? Are you guys telling me that Verity's Brow does not eat your death throws stacks when you throw the grenade? Hold on a second. Upon scoring a grenade elements matching weapons kill, grant a stack of death throws for 10 seconds, up to 5 stacks. All stacks disappear on buff expiration. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Never mind then. That's actually a big deal. That's a big deal. That gives you kind of... What do you guys think? Very good or not trolling? It buffs the shatter. You're telling me Verity's Brow death throw stacks buffs the shatter damage of Duskfield Grenade? That sounds made up. That sounds made up. That sounds very made up. If that is indeed true, you could maybe justify putting it in the very good category. But it sounds made up. As we await further tests, I can't test it right now because the game is down, but we're gonna put it in not trolling for now. Finally, Renewal Surturachnes. This one is like it's kind of I'm gonna say this is like memey very good because you get Frost Armor and you get Woven Mail. So it's like you're like Tank Hunter, which is like kind of funny. You know what I mean? Because you got Frost Armor, which is going to give you, if we go Stasis, 22.5% damage resistance. And then on Strand, you have Woven Mail, which is 45% damage resistance. And then you had Tier 10 Resilience for 30% damage resistance. You can do the Faceted Protection for another 15%. You can do Resistance Mods for even more damage resistance. Like there's a lot you can do. Like Tank Hunter. It's funny. You know, I like it. Okay, so we're gonna finalize our picks right here. We're gonna take a quick peek before we like lock this in, and we're gonna give everyone a chance to call out anything they see that like they're like, I really don't like that that's there. I feel like that shouldn't belong there. Inmost Light Surturachnes is improperly placed. Now that you bring it up, I could see Inmost Light Surturachnes being pretty legitimate. The one change I will make, I'm gonna move Inmost Light Surturachnes into the very good column, because I do see the synergy here where it's like Inmost Light, you're constantly getting your grenades back. Surturachnes, you're constantly getting Woven Mail when you throw those grenades. A lot of this other stuff, though, like I feel pretty good about where a lot of this feel a lot of good. A lot of them are in that one horse drawing. Pretty much anything with like Liars or Syntheseps or anything like that automatically gets in the horse drawing. By the way, once again, for those who are confused about what that one horse drawing tier is, it's this, which is to say one of the perks is absolutely crazy and the other perk is so yeah, I like where stuff's at. Again, like I said, this is after a week of them being released, so like there could be a build out there for one of these that just like no one's thought about yet, where it's like, oh my god, I can't believe we didn't see that. And then you come back to this video 3 months later and you're like, dang, Mech was an idiot, I can't believe he put it in that tier. That's entirely possible. But like right now, I'm feeling pretty good about where these are. Once again, like I said, just because I have a pair in a lower tier does not mean you should delete an exotic if you get that pair. In my opinion, you should keep at least one copy of every single exotic, which, like I said, once again, if you want to track which ones you have already got, you want to track your dupes and whatnot, I have this spreadsheet linked in the description below. Shout out to my mod Hockey Star who made this. You can open it up, click the file button, click make a copy, and then you'll get your own version and you can edit it specific to what drops you're getting. That's kind of how we're feeling right now. You guys can roast me in the comments below. I hope that this video gave you guys some insights, maybe some potential builds that can be done with these, some potential synergies, and just gave you a general idea of like what's not half bad, what's terrible, what's insane. If you walk out of this with a little bit of extra bonus knowledge about exotic class items, then I'll consider this video successful. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll make sure to make a Warlock and Titan one as well. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.